Chapter 2 is very important chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. In this chapter, Arjun reiterates to Shri Krishna that he is unable to cope up with his current situation, where he has to kill his elders and teachers. Primarily known as Sankhya Yoga, the chapter is also known for self-realization as the book of knowledge, yoga of philosophy, or some people also say the book of doctrines. In this chapter, Shloka 1 to 10, Sanjay explains to King Dhritarashtra what is going on the battlefield. He says how Lord Krishna and Arjun, they converse at the stage of the battlefield. Now Shloka 11 to 30, Lord Krishna explains Sankhya Yoga to Arjun, giving him the total insight into the discipline of Sankhya Yoga. Shlok 31 to 38, the importance of fighting war or the battle according to the religion of Kshatriya, that is explained. The four categories of people, Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishya and Shudra, these categories are named not on the basis of their birth, but on the basis of what they are doing in life. Shlok 39 to 53, Karamyoga is described in detail by Lord Krishna, explaining how the relationship is reckoned from the point of view of religion or the duty of the individual. Shlok 54 to 72, the qualities of Sthit Pragya Purush and why and how these qualities are developed. This is very important aspect in this chapter. Now we begin with Shlok 1. Sanjay said, Lord Krishna, finding Arjun in a bewildered state with eyes full of tears and mind engulfed in grief, told him thus. Lord Krishna said, Dear Arjun, how did you get into this fit of attachment at this most inappropriate time? Enlightened minds do not get into attachment. Neither would this attachment grant you heaven, nor will it bring you any repute. Therefore, Arjun, don't get into the state of unproductiveness. It doesn't behove you. Dear Arjun, get rid of the wasteful waywardness of the mind and get ready for the battle. Arjun said, Madhusudan, how can I fight Bhisham Pitama and Dronacharya with arrows and weapons when both of them are elders and worthy of worship? Therefore, instead of killing these great souls, I would prefer to beg. I would consider succor of mercy more beneficial, because I feel after killing my elders, at best, I will be indulging in worldly pleasures with a wealth that would be soaked in the blood of my respected mentors. Besides, we do not know what is more advantageous to us, to fight or to relinquish war. Even we do not know who will win. In this battle, we are faced by our own near and dear ones, after killing whom we may not even like to live. Therefore, downcast with coward eyes, confused about the true call of my duty, and with my mind afflicted with attachment, I seek your guidance. I am your disciple and under your patronage. Kindly advise me about the most appropriate action at this hour of peril. Because I do not foresee that even a kingdom full of wealth or blessings worthy of gods could ever bring me such solace that can rid me of the deep grief that leaves my senses dry. Sanjay said, Rajan, Arjun, who is known to conquer sleep, After speaking to Shri Govind, the Lord Krishna, in such a manner, is full of remorse and finally says that he will not fight. Bharatvanshi Dhritarashtra, Lord Krishna found Arjun totally downcast amidst two armies, so to cheer him up, smilingly he said, Arjun, you lament for people unworthy of your sympathy. Still you talk like a scholar. But let me tell you that knowledgeable people neither mourn for those who are dead, nor do they lament for those who are alive. Neither is it true that at any earlier time I, you, or these kings did not exist, nor that in future we will lose our existence. Just as a human being is first a child, then he lives in his youth, and finally becomes an old person, likewise, the soul also changes the body. It leaves one body to acquire another. In these circumstances, patient and steady people are not disturbed and they never feel sad. Kunti Putra, any state of situation that may bring joy or grief, just like summer or winter, are all transient. They come and they go. Therefore, you have to bear these. Because a noble mind, a mature mind who retains his calm even in the changing circumstances and is not disturbed by joy or by grief, his soul becomes worthy of salvation. Truth always establishes itself, and there is no base for the life. An enlightened person always understands the essence of the statement that lie has no base. Only the soul is indestructible. The entire universe is replete with such soul. No one can ever destroy the soul. But the bodies that come to embody the unperishable and perpetual soul are all transient and perishable. Therefore, knowing the perishable nature of the human body, Arjun, you must fight the battle and perform your duty. Whoever thinks that a soul can kill or soul can be killed does not know the factual truth, because a soul never kills anyone, nor it can be killed by anyone. There can never be a time when this soul is born or any time when the soul dies, because the soul is everlasting, deathless, and eternal. The body may die, but the soul cannot. The soul is ageless, permanent, and original. Arjun, anyone who understands the eternal nature and everlasting character of the soul comes to know that neither can it kill nor can it be killed. Just like man had to give up the old clothes when he undertakes to wear new ones, in the same way the soul relinquishes the old body and comes into a new one. No weapon can cut the soul. Fire cannot burn it. Water cannot make it wet. And the air cannot make it dry. Because the soul is indestructible. It is imperishable. It is infinite. And it is immortal. The soul is stable and constant. The soul cannot be described in words, nor it can be imagined in thoughts. It does not even change its existence. Arjun, the person who understands the above characteristics of the soul should not grieve about anyone dying. Therefore, you should not lament. But even if you believe that the soul takes birth and dies, even then you should not grieve. Because according to this According to this belief, anyone who is born must die, and the one who dies must be born again. And you must not grieve considering the unchangeable nature of life birth cycle. Arjun, all beings were invisible before birth and will all become invisible after death. Only during the period between the birth and the death they are visible. In such a situation, there is no need to feel sad. Only an enlightened person can understand that soul in the true manifestation. An enlightened one may explain about this at length, but most people cannot understand this concept even after such explanations. Arjun, the soul in all the bodies cannot be killed. Therefore, you must not grieve for all or for any human being. Besides, paying attention to your own religion or duty, you must not have any cause to harbor fear of any sort. To fight a battle for the sake of religion is most honorable duty of a Kshatriya. Parth, the doors of heavens have been opened for you in the guise of righteous war, and only the fortunate Kshatriya gets this unique opportunity. But if you do not fight this battle, you will be acting against your religion and also your duty. You will lose your name and you will be committed to sin. Everyone will talk of your cowardice and lowly actions for ages. For a man of character, such bad name is worse than death. All those great charioteers who once held you in great esteem will now consider you selfish and lowly, and will think that because of fear you ran away from war. Your enemies will talk ill of you, your abilities, and will speak the unspeakable. What else could ever cause a greater grief? Either you will die in the battle or go to heaven, and also if you win your kingdom, you will enjoy the rule, and plus you will put justice to order. Therefore, Arjun, get ready for the battle with all your mind. You must consider that victory and defeat, loss or gain, are all the same when you are performing your duty. And then you must get ready to fight. Fighting the battle with this spirit, you will not be afflicted by worry. Parth, I have given you this advice according to Jnana Yoga. Now you must understand from me the principles of Karamyoga for purifying the mind. According to these principles, you will give up attachment to all forms of action or annihilate all forms of attachment. According to Karamyoga, no action originates or generates any effects, either in the beginning or in the end. Rather, a little practice of Karamyoga relieves you from the fear of the dire death or birth cycle and its consequences. Arjun, according to Karamyoga, the definitive intelligence is focused and the unidirectional, and it means the same at all times. But those with unstable minds and wandering thoughts are attached to the results of the actions. Their minds and wisdom also wander, making them indecisive and unstable. Arjun, those who are involved and attached to the worldly pleasure, those who only see the results of their efforts, and those who consider heaven alone as the most sought after place after destination, after death. These mundane people use artificial and affected language. They are the ones who indulge in hankering after riches, comforts, and pleasures, and use various means and methods to obtain these. These are absolutely attached with such actions and thoughts, and these blemishes over their minds. They do not possess the decisive power to appreciate God the Almighty. Arjun, all Vedas describe and establish how the nature's three gunas are responsible for the creation of this world. Therefore, I advise you to transcend above the effects of time, of joy, of sadness, of worldly emotions. Fix your mind with the permanent, God the Almighty. Live in your soul and rise above the greed of acquiring worldly objects and protecting these. Because any humans, once he has acquired a large water body, cannot remain interested in a very small one. Likewise, one who has realized God does not remain confined to the Vedas. Once you have tasted the joy of realizing God the Almighty, you no longer require Vedas for salvation. Therefore, you have the right to action, but not its result. You should not hanker after the fruits of your labor. At the same time, you should never develop liking for inaction. Inaction is action of the worst kind. Arjun, get rid of your emotional involvement. Become capable of maintaining your composure in success or in failure, in the completion or non-completion of a task. This ability to maintain a constant continuance is what yoga truly is. The wisdom of constancy is far superior to worldly deeds. Therefore, Dhananjay, develop and seek wisdom of constancy. People who hanker after the fruit of their good deeds are short-sighted indeed. The person who has acquired the wisdom of constancy rises above the sins and virtues. These do not affect him. The wisdom of constancy is the only solution to become effective in your actions and yet remain unattached to these. The people who have achieved wisdom through Buddhi Yoga, a meditative practice as per the scriptures, and therefore who have given up the need to remain attached with the fruit of their action, these are the people who attain purity and the prime position of endless joy. Arjun, the moment your mind rises above and comes out of the entanglement of attachment, you will achieve the much talked about Vairagya. And when your mind, perplexed with the various kinds of principles, comes out of this confusion and focuses on God the Almighty, you shall achieve the state of equanimity. Having listened to the words of Lord Krishna in this manner, Arjun asked, he said, Keshava, the person who becomes sthir buddhi, steady and resolute, what are his qualities? How does he speak? How does he sit? How does he walk? How does he behave? Lord Krishna said, Arjun, when such a person renounces all his desires, when he finds peace and solace in his own soul and remains satisfied, he is known to have acquired sthir buddhi. When a person is not disturbed by the onslaught of sorrow, when he no longer keenly desires joy, when he has conquered attachment, fear, and anger, the person in such a state is considered to have acquired sthir buddhi. When one rises above the affections and neither feels happy nor sad on receiving the desirable objects, nor does he feel unhappy on getting the undesirable objects. Just as a tortoise withdraws all his limbs into the shell, likewise, when the seeker withdraws all his senses from the sensory objects, he is known to have achieved sthir buddhi. Even though a person who does not indulge in worldly objects of pleasure becomes free from their evil influence, yet he does not achieve freedom from attachment. But for the sthir buddhi, steady and resolute man, even attachment is fully conquered. Arjun, if attachment and the worldly objects persist, then the senses which are strong and have a tormenting nature attack the mind of the person and weaken him. Therefore, a person who wants to become sthir buddhi must necessarily keep his senses in perfect control. Only one who is able to do so, his mind becomes stable. Arjun, if one does not control his senses, including his mind, then his mind keeps on brooding over worldly objects. This leads to attachment with these things. In turn, it kindles a desire for these. The non-fulfillment of desires breeds anger. Anger kills the intellect and the senses of any kind of reasoning, any kind of logic. The loss of intellect diffuses memory. When the memory is badly affected, there is a loss of man's wisdom. The person who has lost his wisdom falls from his stature. But a person whose mind is free and who does not hold any attachment, the person who has controlled his senses while enjoying the worldly objects, he attains the purity of mind. Because the purity of mind, all his sorrows come to an end, and the intellect of a person of such a joyous mind soon becomes stable. Arjun, the person who has no control over his mind and his senses, lacks stability of intellect, he cannot be creative. The mind which lacks creativity does not acquire noble wisdom, and the mind of such an uncreative person lacks faith. The man without faith cannot have peace. How can a man who lacks peace be happy? Just as a long and strong wind drives away with it a boat floating in the water, likewise a particular sense carries away with itself the mind of a man who allows any of the senses to keep on thinking about the objects of its enjoyment. Therefore, the person who is able to control all his senses, keeping them unattached with worldly objects alone can acquire a stable mind. And Arjun, when the common people sleep at night, the pure, knowledgeable person who has realized God the Almighty, is awake. But when during the day all humans are awake, enjoying their transient worldly pleasures, the saintly soul who has understood truth in fact sleeps. Just like water from various rivers merge into the ocean, which remains stable, the rivers, while merging, do not create any disturbance for the vast ocean. Likewise, the worldly enjoyments do not cause any disturbance or attachment to the stable minded man. He achieves the prime peace. But the person who runs away from the worldly enjoyments cannot achieve peace. Because a person who rises above his ego is able to relinquish his attachment with all his desires, only he attains peace. This is the state of person who has realized God, and after this realization, he becomes unattached. And in the end, in this state of devotion, he attains the state of God the Almighty Himself. In this manner, Lord Krishna explains to Arjun the importance of fighting the battle, the importance of acting against injustice. Because if you make something which is bad for others, you should feel sad. But if others are unjust to you, you should equally feel upset. And it is your duty to fight the unjust battle. In fact, when a Kshatriya gets this kind of treatment, it is his duty to fight the person who has done injustice to him. In other words, performance of the duty as a Kshatriya is emphasized not only in Karamyoga but also in Sankhya Yoga, because if he wants peace, because if he wants justice, if he wants solace, he has to perform his duty as a Kshatriya.